Hey guys, we are back for Lovecraft Country, season 1, episode, I think 9, 8. Well, I'll put in the description. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share the love. The episode is called Rewind 1921. Okay. So it starts off with Diane. You know how it started, how it ended last week. Diane is very sick. She was attacked by that curse that the police captain put on her or whatnot, and like her whole arm it's just going to reaching through her whole body. Her whole arm is like decrepit and deteriorating, and it's just looking horrible, and it just looks gross. But anyway, so that's happening, and as that's happening, finally everybody else is in the house with her, Ruby, Letty, Tick, and Montrose. And then Ruby is like, this is all y'all fault. Y'all wasn't looking after this little girl and everything and whatnot. And everybody arguing. It was like, okay, let's stop arguing. Tick is like, you know what? How can we fix this? Or whatnot. Tick is like, you know what? I'm just gonna contact Christina. I will give her the pages in exchange for her help. Letty stops him, and she's like, wait, you can't do that because I actually already gave Christina them pages in return for to protect you, but instead she offered me invulnerability or whatever, or whatnot. Excuse me, I don't know what that was. And Tick was like, what? And then he's like, oh shit. Then Montrose just jumps out of nowhere like, what? You said, I thought you said you don't want to use no more magic, but you're going to use it to save yourself and blah, 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 blah. And as he's going in on Letty, Ruby was going to jump in. It was like, the reason she did it is because she's pregnant, but Letty stops her. So she doesn't get to jump at him with that. But Montrose already knows she's pregnant, so apparently he's just still mad about that, or whatever. So from there, excuse me. So Ruby, she was like, you know what? They were like, oh, now we're out of options. Ruby's like, nah, we ain't. Christina will come and help for me. I'm like, okay, go call yo boo. Now I was just saying, like, that's really her girl / man, woman, whatever. But she's like, she'll come for me. So, and she does come. Christina was like, all right, the only person that can lift this curse is the police captain, and if the best she can do is reverse the spell temporarily, but if inevitably she will die. The only thing that can get rid of the spell is the book of names, or the person who cast it, which is the captain. They say the police captain is dead. She was like, what? She's Letty or whatever was like, yeah, there was a gas fire or something outside my house, and I guess they say that killed him. And she like, oh, okay. But then she tells them like, well, get Diane ready for the reversal. Mark the house up with these markings, and I'll need her closest blood relative's blood to cast the to do the spell or whatnot. And then she's like, I got some other business to take care of, and y'all get her temperature down because I guess she was burning with fever. And by the time I come back, we'll get it cracking and help her temporarily. So from there, Christina's about to leave, and what happened? Yeah, Christina's about to leave, and Ruby, she leaving with her babe because they live together and stuff. So, and Letty comes out behind Ruby, and she's like, Ruby or whatever, and then Ruby comes and she was like, girl, look at how Montrose and whatever and Tick with all his crazy ideas. She keeps saying like, you just been in nothing but trouble running behind this man, and all this stuff is happening constantly just with you being intertwined with him. You need to be getting in this car with me and Christina and leaving this motherfucker behind. Letty was like, no, it's not like that. Christina you can't trust her or whatnot. She was like, well, Christina has never, she ain't lied to me, and she isn't trying to hurt me. Matter of, she's like, she didn't. She's like, oh, she shot. She's like, her father shot you. She brought you back to life, and she gave you a vulnerability, and she has never done anything to hurt me or you per se. She was like, but do you know that Christina plans on using Christina said in order to help them at all, Tick has to agree to go with her willingly back to Artem for the autumnal equinox, which in turn she gonna use him to become immortal, whatever the fuck she's trying to do, like how her father was trying to do. And Tick agrees. And then Letty goes and tells Ruby that, like, did she tell you that she plans on what she planned on doing with Tick, like killing him during the autumnal equinox? That's why she needs him to come willingly. And then Ruby is just like looking like, well. So, and she walks away, and then she gets in the car with Christina, and then they leave. So from there, what happens? Oh wait, no, you know what? I think that part happens after, but it don't really matter. Um, so Christina, when she said she had some stuff that she needed to do, where she went to go before the whole thing with Letty and her happened, before she does a thing for the whole tick thing, she goes to, because you know they told her that the police chief was already dead or whatnot, but Christina knows differently. She goes to the lodge and she sees that the police chief, you know, he got all them, he's got all those Negro body parts from Hiram, doctor or whatever, Hiram, who fixed him up and gave him, turned him into some type of Frankenstein or whatnot. But the other lodge members are trying to do a spell to save him, but it's not working, and he's dying. So he is about to die, but he wasn't quite dead yet. And William / Christina come in, and it's like, what? We thought you were dead. And then the police chief knows that it's actually Christina. And then she was like, you know, she was waiting to see you die. So I was like, okay, Christina, you ain't slick. You could have got use the police chief's or captain's blood or something or whatever, got whatever you needed from him right then and there to save Dee, but she did not, because she needed Tick to agree to go to Arden with her. So she ain't slick. She be acting like she all to the good with certain things, but Christina is out for herself and sometimes trying to help her little boo Ruby just to keep her around, because I guess they like doing it or whatever. But anyway, from there we see Montrose is down in the shop, Uncle George's shop or whatnot, and he's sitting there drinking some type of moonshine or some real strong ass liquor. And Tick was like, I sent you down here to look for the stuff for the pages or whatnot. And then he was like, yeah, but I'm wondering, he was like, I hope that I could be able to help. And he was like, what do you mean you are going to be able to help? You helped me cast the spell for him to become a vulnerable Tick. And you also helping Dee right now with your blood to help save her. And he was like, I don't know if my blood's going to save her. He's like, what you mean? He was like, then he jumps and he says, because he may not be Dee's closest relative, he goes and he says that Uncle George may be your father. And then Tick snaps the fuck out. He's like, what? All this time you was beating on me, and I'm just sitting in the chair waiting on beatings from you, and Uncle George is there, and I was just praying that he was my father and not you, and blah 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 blah, and all this. He's like, you mean that mama cheated on you and all this? I'm like, why are you so concerned about who was cheating, who was sleeping with who? I mean, dang, it happened, whatever. He is like real serious about cheating, so Letty, girl, don't cheat on him, because he real serious and adamant about that. But yeah, so he starts getting mad. I'm like, this really ain't the time. We trying to save little baby D. Y'all need to be focusing on other things. But Tick always up in his own feelings, thinking about himself on so much stuff and thinking a lot is about him. He real self-centered in some ways. I peeped that. But anyway, from there, as they're talking, Letty walks in and she was like, Christina's back. And Dee's temperature's down. We need to get this reversal spell started. And as she's saying that, who the fuck walked through the door? Hippolyta. I never say her name right. Hippolyta, whatever. Auntie Hippolyta comes in and she's like, what's wrong with Dee? I'm like, bitch, where you been? You've been all over Paris and on different planets and stuff. Your daughter is dying. Oh my goodness. I mean, I know they got cell phones and shit, so you just gotta see people whenever they come back, especially if you don't know what the fuck they went, especially if they went to a whole nother world or earth or planet or whatever fuck she was at with them aliens and shit and having a good old time. So Christina performs the reversal spell, and little baby Diana, she was turning into one of them little evil monster little dancing things, and I was like, oh my goodness. So, and then the spell of the what's the name was still working on her so hard, but Christina was able to reverse it temporarily, because she said eventually it's still gonna come for her. But she had turned into one of them little evil things. I was like, oh, I know. It was to turn her into that, which was creepy, because she had the little makeup on and her hair was all in the little twists and stuff. I was like, oh no, but child, no, and her arm was all decrepit. But yeah, so they reversed it, and that's when the whole thing happened with Christina and Ruby and Letty, when she was talking about y'all, she needs to just come with them, because Tick don't mean her no good, because she's just been in all types of bullshit chasing after Tick, like how Letty mama was always chasing the man and getting herself so wrapped up in him or whatnot. But Letty don't go, and that's when that happens. So from there, Hippolyta says she's downstairs and she's trying to she says that, look, we only got about 24 hours for D in order to keep her alive, because the spell gonna come back on her. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even Christina said, like, she gonna eventually die. I can reverse it for temporarily, but she gonna eventually die if she don't get them pages from the book, which is destroyed. So Hippolyta was like, fuck that. After they told her the book was destroyed in Tulsa or whatever, she was like, fuck that, we going back to the observatory. And he was like, what, to that, Hiram's machine, that big ass machine or whatnot. And they was like, we already gave away the key. But she was like, no, I got something else to get the portal working. It only take me a few hours to get down to Kentucky to the observatory. It take me a few hours to fix the machine, and I could hook it up, because she got all that technology in her arm. She was like, I could hook it up to me and fix it and get it all cracking, and we can go back to 1921, get the book before it gets burnt down in Tulsa, and save my baby. So y'all shut the fuck up, get in this car, and let's go now. So that's what they do, and they on their way to Kentucky. So from there, we see Christina and Ruby, they back at the crib, and they're downstairs in the basement where they're keeping where she keeps William and that other lady. And I'm like, okay, we finally found out who the other lady is, because Ruby like, who was she? I was like, yeah, you don't even care what the lady is, who the lady is you turning into. Well, she got family around or something. But Christina shares with her that she was a groundskeeper for her father or whatnot, and her sister hit her over the head with a shovel or something. And that's how she got in the concussion and been in the coma this whole time. I'm like, damn. And I'm like, oh, that just hits too close to home, because I'm sure Letty and Ruby probably want to hit each other upside the head with some shit too. But anyway, Ruby goes on and she goes in. She was like, so you were using me the whole time just to get to Tick and all this and stuff. You were using me for information, blah, 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 blah. And then she was like, I never, not one time, asked you about Tick or none of that shit. So don't say that I was using you, because I didn't ask you not one time. She's like, yeah, but you still, she's like, don't try to hustle me. My mom was a hustler. I know you still had me around, because it would one day come. She's like, you didn't see magic in me. And she was like, no. She was like, yes, you were a plan B, but all the other stuff that I told you was true. She's like, everything that she's planned out has been so she can ascend. And she was like, now the only variable is her. And something else I forgot she said what was a variable that came in, because she was like, the main thing that she's always been doing is trying to ascend and become immortal and experience all this greatness that happens after she do this damn ritual. But she does indeed care about Ruby, she's telling her. And then Ruby was like, well, are you planning on killing Tick or whatnot? She was like, well, Tick was always meant to go back to Arnhem. It was just a matter of time. And yes, she does need all of Tick's blood to complete the spell. I'm like, oh, well, she was keeping it 100 with her. At least she told the truth. And then Ruby was like, she kind of just brushed that off, and she was like, well, just promise me you won't hurt my sister. And then she said, I promise. And that was the end of that conversation. So I guess everything's still good in the neighborhood with them. And that was the end of that. So from there, we see they finally get to Kentucky, to the observatory. Montrose, he is still sipping on that moonshine shit, and he is tweaking because he having flashbacks about Tulsa, because it was very, very he was the only one that experienced it out of all of them, and he is just having flashbacks and bad memories before they even get there. Like, he is just like hearing shit. He hearing about his father beating on him and all that other stuff, and he's just having real bad vibes about just going back. I would be too, like when everybody died and shit. Like, I think his parents and stuff died too. Everybody died, I think, and they're the only survivors. Him, Uncle George, and Tick Mama. So that's really that's a really traumatizing moment in his life. So I could understand why he's taking a little swig of something and trying to take the pain off and trying to ease into it. So once they get there, and Hippolyta is Hippolyta, whatever, is working on the machine or whatnot, Montrose and Letty are having a little side conversation, and she was like, the only reason that I was trying to get vulnerability is because, and Montrose finished her sentence, he was like, because you're pregnant. He's like, yeah, I know. And he was like, when Tick went through the portal, he went to the future, and he saw, he knows that, he told her about her having the child, and it's a boy, and how she's playing a role in the demise of his son. So he's like, ain't no coming back from that. You gave her them pages, and Tick knows that he's going to die in Artem under Christina's hand and doing that ritual. So it is what it is. And that was just the end of their conversation. So from there, they get the portal working, and it sends them back to Tulsa, 1921, which is actually a real event that happened, the Tulsa Massacre. I had to look it up so we were a little bit refreshed on the whole thing. So it happened, I think, June 1st in Tulsa, but this is like, I don't believe this actual story. And within this is, the actual massacre is a real thing that happened, but the story within this that they're telling, of course not with the magic and stuff, isn't real. But I don't know if there was a family like this that died and all like that, but I'm sure something similar, you never know, that happened. So they jump through the portal, they're there, and then Tick peeks out to listen outside of the room that they're in, and so they could hear what day and time or whatever it is. And it turns out it's the day of prom. And then Montrose is like, oh, that's Booker T. Washington's prom. It got canceled that day, and because I forgot what the kickoff point of why the whole shit got kicked off in the first place. I ain't about to look it back up right now. But some got kicked off. They closed the school down, and then immediately after that, shit kicked off early in the evening, and the whole race thing happened, and the whole war, and a mob of white people came in Tulsa and just robbed and murdered a whole bunch of black people. And Montrose was like, everybody in them houses in their house died or was killed or whatnot. But again, Montrose, Uncle George, and what's her name survived. So from there, Tick Mama survived. So from there, they like, well, we got to get to the house before the shit gets burnt down so we can get that book of names. And they was like, okay, Letty, you gonna go and try to knock on the door and try to distract them or whatnot, so you can get in or whatnot, or so they could get in and get the book. So because they're not gonna recognize her or whatnot. They'd recognize, I don't know if they would recognize Tick, but they're not gonna recognize her. So from there, they're like, okay, we got to change, because they got their 1950 clothes on, and it's completely different than 1920. So they go try to they go to the house, or they come in from the back or from off the side, because Montrose know where everything at. And before they even get there, Montrose pauses because he's having flashbacks. We keep seeing Montrose had these flashbacks of what happened when Uncle George and them and all, when they were attacked, like in the square or whatnot by that statue or whatnot, when they were saved by that stranger or whatnot, and how they always told that story to Tick and them. And as he was having his flashback, Tick come at him like, I knew it. You was sitting there drinking and blah, blah, blah. He was like, it's not even about that. He was like, of course I'm going to have a little bit of swig of something. And he was like, you know what? This whole time I was sitting here and I would forgive you about beating on me constantly. And Mama and Uncle George never stopping it. Then this whole time, I always was like, well, he's my father, and it turns out you might not even be my father. After this whole thing is over with, I'm done with you, blah blah blah. And I'm like, Tick, it ain't the time. Y'all trying to say Diana, and you bringing all your garbage and your luggage to 1920. And even Hippolyta told them, like, whatever y'all got going on, y'all leave it here, because we trying to save my baby. Tick definitely didn't listen, because he was still talking bullshit about how he done with Montrose and all that shit. I'm like, boy, calm down. Y'all got other bigger fish to fry at this moment. So anyway, they get to the back of the house, or off to the side across the street from their two houses, because Uncle George and Montrose live right next to Hippolyta family, not Hippolyta, Tick Mama family. So they all went there. So from there, what happened? My bad. I got a little sidetracked. So as they're watching from a distance, they were about to execute their plan of distraction and trying to get the book. They see a young Montrose come out, and he running, and his father is coming up behind him, talking about, get a switch, boy, get a switch. I teach you, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm sorry, Daddy. And then he proceeds to beat the shit out of this boy with a switch from off a tree or whatnot. And they just see it, and Montrose is just, reimagining it, and he's seeing it visually, and he's just, that's why the boy got fucking problems. That's why he got so many demons now, because his father used to beat the brakes off of him constantly. And it turns out his father caught him with Uncle George's corsage that he had for his prom date or whatnot, and I guess he was wearing it, and you can't show no sign of gay or any type of stuff like that, especially with a very homophobic father or whatnot. His father was probably gay too. That's probably why he was sitting there doing all that extra shit. Usually people trying to hide their own gayness when they that homophobic. Anyway, so he beating the shit out of him. And as he was doing that, George comes out, but he don't do shit. And then Tick's mama come out, and she stands in front of him like, that's enough or whatnot. And then George's and Montrose's daddy was like, he about to hit her. And mind you, he is played by homeboy off of Black Lightning. I can't remember his name, but that's who his father is played by. Cannot remember his name. The one with all the ghosts on him in Black Lightning. Y'all know who I'm talking about if y'all watch Black Lightning. But anyway, that's who the father's played by. And what's the name's Tick's mama, she come out, and then he's like, oh, girl, I hit you too, so you better get out the way. But her father was like, hell no, you can hit your kids and beat them as much as you want to, but you ain't gonna touch mine though. And then as they were having that little exchange of words, Montrose runs off and leaves, and we don't know where he go. So, and they're watching old Montrose, and all of them are all watching this as this happening and going on. And as they're watching all this, old Montrose dips up away and leaves, and away from Letty and Tick, and they're like, shit, where did Montrose go? And then we see Uncle George and Tick's mama go off and look for young Montrose, and Tick is like, oh shit, he's going to warn Uncle George or whatever, or warn them and whatnot, but he can't do that. He's going to warn them because I think George gets shot or something happens. He's like that he's going to warn them, and he can't do that because you can't do anything to disrupt the past, because it might fuck up his future, because those are his parents and shit. This is like a really, really sad version of Back to the Future. Like a super horribly sad race tension, just horrible Back to the Future in all the worst of ways. But anyway, as that's happening, what the hell happened? Hold on, let me look at my notes. To look for them. Oh, so they Letty and Tick decide to split up because they need to find Montrose and stop him from doing whatever he's planning on doing. So Letty hotwires the car and Tick drives off. I'm like, why she gets to drive around the car? But probably because it's 1920 and women don't drive at this point. So Tick drives off in the car, and Letty's going off, and she running around going to look for Montrose because they don't really know where he's going. So from there, as they're going to go look, they already hear shit already about to start popping off. I think they heard like a gunshot or something, and it wasn't even dark out, but I mean, it might have been later in the evening because it was June, so it don't get dark until like 9 o'clock, so it probably was like the evening time, but it probably just wasn't dark yet. So we already hear shit kicking off. So, and they're like, we gotta hurry up and find them before this shit goes crazy. So Tick finally catches up with Montrose, and he's over by that square where they walked past earlier, and he was like, look, Pop, you can't stop anything that's gonna happen. You can't warn nobody. We can't do anything. We can't do anything to disrupt the future, because, you know, if you do, I'll never been born. And Montrose goes and tells him, he was like, look, this is a part that I never told you or your father or whatever about. Because he's like, who's that kid right there? Because Montrose actually was going to meet with a friend. And he was like, I was going to meet with my friend and tell him that I couldn't be his friend anymore because he's a faggot and I'm not. So apparently that was probably like his little boo back in the day. But I mean, they probably didn't do nothing. But they both, you know, had a little thing and whatnot. He was like, don't worry, I was just telling him that I would have never jeopardized anything. The only thing I ever wanted to be was your father. And I'm like, if you want to be his father so bad and have him and all this, why you beat the shit out of that boy all the time? Like, I mean, I know your daddy did that to you, but you know what it did to you. So why would you beat the shit out of your child that you wanted so bad? I'm like, man, these generational curses are a motherfucker, and this is like, makes no fucking sense. But anyway, as he's sitting there telling him that, Tick all crying. Tick is very, very sensitive. My trust is crying too. And whatnot. So they going through that whole thing. And then he was like, yeah, I never told nobody. He just wanted to save his friend because he's like, I didn't tell y'all because Uncle George and them, they hadn't came yet. But what happens is his friend, as he was telling him that whole thing, he can't be his friend no more. The white dudes that pulled up and attacked them came and called homeboy a nigger faggot and blew his motherfucking brains out. And he wanted to stop that from happening. He was like, no, you don't know, you can't save him. He was like, it's not going to change nothing. I'm going to still get with your mama. But he was like, you don't know that. So you need to be completely sure. You don't know that that's not going to change anything. So you cannot mess with this, because if that boy survives, you don't know what chain of reactions happen. I'm like, come on now, you know, that's the one rule of time travel. Don't change shit, because it could fuck up the whole butterfly effect. You can't fuck with shit. And as this is happening, simultaneously, Letty is walking around trying to look for Montrose, and then a group of fucking white racist motherfuckers pull up around her, shoot some, or start beating up some black other dude, and then they was talking about some any, meeny, miny, mo, catch a nigga by a toe, and then start running after her with a gun. They actually shoot her, but you know, she has invulnerability, so ain't nothing gonna happen to her. And as they shooting at her, sorry y'all, my cat, he got allergies. He been sneezing a lot like these past couple days. But anyway, what happened as they were about to come up on her, Montrose and Uncle George's father come with his shotgun and scare them away, as well as Tick's mama's father. And they were like, yeah, girl, come on, get up in this house or whatnot and get away from all the shit that's going on. And Montrose dad was like, where them people come from? Who were they? Do you know them? What was going on? Is it more of them coming? We need to know. And then Tick's mama's father was like, just let her catch her breath. You could tell that he was a more nicer, compassionate man. Uncle George and them father was an asshole, and he's just like, fuck that. No, she needs to tell us now, give us answers. And after Letty caught her breath, she was like, she didn't know what to do because she didn't want to tell them nothing, because she knows what's going to happen in a few hours, actually, because they all get burnt to death in that house. And then she goes and she tells them, she was like, there was some more of them on the corner and whatnot, and I think they're coming this way or whatnot. She was like, they were like, we got to get out of here, we got to get the kids and whatnot. And they were like, no, let's get there. Then they had a whole bunch of guns. They all got guns, and it was like, nah, we gonna watch the roof, and if anybody come, everybody get a gun. If you see anybody, you watch the back, y'all watch here, y'all watch there. If you see anybody, Uncle what's the name was like, you see anybody, shoot first to warn, second to kill. Fuck that. So from all that, they watching the house, and Letty knows eventually what's going to happen anyway, but you know, she just got to play through it and whatnot. But as she's there, one of what's the name's ancestors is there, and she looking at Letty a little sideways, like, she don't seem right. She don't look like she belong here. You could tell from the beginning she was looking at her like that. So from there, this is all simultaneously happening while the whole attack at the little square thing on Montrose and all of them, young Montrose and all that, and old Montrose and Tick are watching. So what's happening with them is they shoot Montrose's little friend, and they about to attack him, but Uncle George and Tick Mama pull up and they start fighting. And then they were like, oh, this is when that mysterious stranger comes and whatnot, and saves them. And he was like, luckily the white boys, they only had one gun, so they could the rest of them just had to fight it out, so they whooped their ass. From there, as simultaneously as that's happening, Letty is in that house, and then she's talking to, I think, Tick's mama's sister or something. I believe it's Tick's mama's sister, and she was saying how she was sweet on George, and they had got into it, and she was like, oh, once we're all gonna be all right, we're gonna be all right, aren't we, Letty? And he's like, yeah, I'm sure, Mr. Freeman, and all this is gonna be fine. And she's like, yeah, I just, once this is all over, I can apologize and we can get on with stuff. And the next day I'm like, oh, Poe, baby, you ain't gonna have another day on this earth. And I just felt so bad, and Letty felt the same way. She's just like, oh my goodness. And from there, as they're talking, they hear the gunshot. She's like, oh, that's my daddy's gun. So they run. She's like, you run and go help. And then Letty takes that opportunity to slide off to the side and go look for the damn book of names, which she was there for in the first place. And as she looked for the book of names, the grandmama or whatever, she was like, baby, what you doing up here? And then she's like, oh, I was just trying to look for a better shot. She was like, she pulled the gun on her. She was like, I knew someone right about you when I first seen you, and you had them shoes on. I ain't never seen them shoes before. Where you from? You need to start talking now, or you're gonna get the bullet right through your eye. And then she was like, look, I know this gonna sound crazy, and she tells her everything. She's like, look, my name, I am Letitia, but your ancestor, your great this and this is depending on you, and I know I'm here for the book of names, and I'm from the future, and blah blah. She told her the whole thing. She was like, well, if you here looking for the book of names in the past, that means it don't exist in the future. Then that means that we die in this fire tonight. And then she was like, yeah. She was like, I'm sorry. She's like, I can't. She was like, she was gonna go to one. She's like, you can't, because if you try to save them, Tick may not be exist. Like, your great whatever cousin or whatnot won't be born, and I love him and my baby and all that. Please help me and all that. And then she eventually agrees, like, okay, fine. She agrees to help her, and she gives her the book or whatnot. And she tells her, she's like, I was told to protect the book and to never open it, but she gives her the words or whatnot when she opens it or some shit or whatnot with the book. And I'm just gonna go through the whole part of what happens in the house with them. And then she gives her the book or whatnot, the people coming in with the fire, you hear the screams and all that, and it's just so sad 'cause they all getting burnt alive. And she asked Lady to pray with her, and as she prayed, she was like, well, you got to get out of here too. She's like, no, I got magic on me, I'm not gonna be affected by the fire. She's like, well, just stay with me and pray. And as she's staying with her and praying and stuff, they all get burnt alive in the fire, and Lady's just standing there holding her hand in the fire and all that. And that's what happens in that scene for the whole time. And jump back to the square where Uncle George and all of them, where they getting attacked by the white people. Uncle George and Tick Mom pull up, and they helping in the fight. And Uncle Montrose is like, wait, where's the anonymous stranger who comes in to help us? He comes in, he was like, I got you, kid. And then all of a sudden it jumps into Tick's mind that he remembers what the stranger said. He was like, this whole time that he was the one that helped them. So I guess he was having memories of them, because we saw him have that memory way back when he helps with in the first episode, when he was like, Jackie Robinson came with a bat. But it was actually him. He came and he saved his father and uncle and mama through the time travel. So he was actually there that whole time. But you know how time travel go, like, you don't figure it out till it comes to that moment. So Tick goes, and because he's the one with the bat, and beats the brakes off of the rest of them white boys that was attacking them. So Tick goes and saves all of them, and he does the whole I got your kid line. And from there, sorry y'all, I am winded. I'm trying to get through this pretty quick, even though it's already 30-something minutes. From there, they save them. They go and try to get back to the portal. Letty, she, is still in the fire and whatnot, and then she's making her. We don't know where Letty's at yet. So they go back to where the portal was open, and Montrose, they could tell like something's wrong with the portal. So Tick jumps through the portal to see what's going on, and we see Hippolyta or whatever, and she like gagging and foaming at the mouth, eyes is flipping to the back of the head. And she was like, I can't keep this portal open much longer. He was like, no, Auntie, you gotta hold on because Letty ain't back yet, and you gotta keep it open long enough to get her back, and you gotta do it for baby D. Just please hold on a little longer. She was like, she's screaming, and then she starts levitating and shit, and getting electrocuted and shit. So I'm like, lady girl, where the hell is you at? You leave from the people dying and shit and get your ass over. And then finally we see Letty coming, walking down through the middle of the street, through all the chaos, and just holding on for dear life to the book of names. And she walking through the fire, and the whole poem is playing about don't kill or whatnot. And she finally makes it up to the thing and with Montrose, and then they go through the portal. And as Hippolyte was trying to hold on so hard for dear life, long enough for Letty to get through, and she's levitating, and her eyes turn white and her hair turns blue. So I don't know what that means, but that's what happens. I thought her hair was gonna turn white, but that turned blue like how it was in these comics. So that's pretty interesting. So maybe it was like or foreboding or something, I don't know. So from there, what happened? That's it, y'all. I think that's everything that happened. It wasn't a whole bunch that happened this episode, but it gave us some insight on the whole Tosis incident. I mean, they constantly talked about it, but we never seen it. But yeah, y'all, that was the episode. I think we have either one or two more left, and I will be here for that as well. Yeah, I hope y'all having a good start to y'all week. Hope y'all being safe, being well. I will see y'all next week or whenever I post again for something else. Be on the lookout. All right, y'all be well. See y'all later. Love you. Peace. Bye.